Good evening, tutor. Good evening, guys. My name is Claudia Flores. I belong the course research project. This is the final activity. In this moment, I am going to talking about my oral defense of my project. Okay, the topic for this activity is what are the psychological difficulties of learning and understanding English as a foreign language at the Mariano Espina Perez School for grade 6 of high school in Bogota. Okay, this is the introduction, general background. This is the part that I recommend to have attention. And the justifications is knowing the difficulties that students have in acquiring second language allowed creating effective learning strategies. Types of learning barriers. Okay, the students generally have a very various as a psychological comprehension, coherence, and memorization. Research objectives determine the psychological obstacles that the student present during the second language at the acquisition project. Explain the reason that prevent the students from memorizing the words, phrases, expression of second language. And identify what prevents you from understanding second language and making yourself understood in second language. Significance of study. Okay, and the Colombian Bilingual Government Program establishes that by 2025, basic education students must have a B1 in English and university students a B2. The reason is Western culture is not focused on working collaboratively, which generates some hostility between students during their learning process. They are different between the German rhetoric and rhetoric of Roman language, product of the culture, which generates difficulty in the students to be coherent and to be understood. Definition of terms. Self-confidence, the eventual success that can be achieved by those who learn a second language depends to a great extent on your confidence in yourself and your abilities to achieve your goal. The language culture connection. Whenever a language is a thought, a language is also taught. Complex system of interconnected cultures, custom, values, ways of thinking, feelings, and attitudes. And finally, the meaning learnings. This type of learning gives information under exists structures and memory system to create association list for a better retention of learning. This form of learning is strongly supported by the cognitive theories of as well. Literature review. According to Vygotsky, learning cannot be conceived as an individual product but as a result of social participation linked to the use of cultural tools, language, writing, and number system created by society in the world. Course of the human is history and the change of the form of society according to its level of cultural development. Vygotsky. The ability of human beings, thanks to their evolutionary process, to harmonize the emotional and cognitive so that they can attain, understand, control, express, and analyze the emotion within themselves and in others. Uh, Seth Goleman. In the theory of multiple intelligence, he talks about the school paper as a lack of training in the emotional part. Uh, According Howard Gardner, therefore, education depends on the emotional development of the individual. Okay, this is the theoretical framework. Uh, six year, 6 year high school students Are students between 11 and 12 years old, where it is very important to have friends and they feel very pressured by their peers. They are adolescents and seek to have the acceptance of their peers, which generates fears in them of making mistakes, and this generates problems in their academic evolution, according to the David Goleman. School favor in due in part to know how to handle emotions. Theoretical framework. Additionality for the students to build new knowledge. She needs to socialize with her other classmates effectively without fear or making mistakes. According to Vygotsky, learning cannot be conceived as an individual product, which is why these processes within the classroom are essential for the students to be successful. For the student to understand the language, she needs to learn its culture since there is an understandable connection between language and culture according to Brown, which allowed us to see the importance of this Richard hypothesis. The lack of participation in the classes of undergraduate students is due to the fear of making mistakes. Students feel that people around them can ridicule them for not knowing the correct answer in class, so they choose to remain silent and they fight to build new knowledge. The memorization problems are because the texts used do not have elements known to the students in their practical life. The lack of the knowledge of the foreign culture makes it difficult to correctly interpret the text word on in class. The methodical design is qualitative, is guided by an inductive logic. The participants were students who were in sixth grade of high school and the Mariano Espina Perez School. The information academic techniques were interviews and observation of the participants in development of English classes in the classroom. The constant comparative method was used of the analysis of the information. It was methods of receipt use. It was found that the students were easily confused when answering questions orally, when they felt intimidated both by the teacher and by their peers, improved socialization and learning when playful activities were carried out that allow them to express themselves better. When they found interesting information in the culture part, they are learning more easily and their reading comprehension was a little higher than when they did not know this information. In the research, it was observed that the most frequent fears of sixth grade students are related to reading of speaking aloud with people who represent authority. Some students shows signs of anxiety in the face of negative evaluation from their peers and the consequently difficulty to advance significantly in their learning process. Okay, well, thank you for your attention.